afternoon, everyone. This is Jared Rand, and welcome to the Global Guided Meditation Call for Tuesday, June 23, 2020, 3 p.m. Eastern. One of the main things that we are faced with, I think one of the biggest impacts on all of us is fear. And fear is an instigator of many, many, many things. And, you know, it's interesting because when you talk with people or share with them that they have the power to create, and their power is so strong is that whatever they believe will come true. And people say, well, you know, the debate that they say, well, I've done that and that doesn't happen. Why is that? It is because the fear of it coming true, it stops it. So you have the power to create. And this is Don Miguel Ruiz. You have the power to create. And your power is so strong that whatever you believe comes true. So, but why, you know, people say, why doesn't that occur? It doesn't happen. You know, I look at that, and okay, so I practice and everything, but it just doesn't happen. Because you have you embrace a fear, a thought, into a fear that you fear it, that it will come true. So then that stops it in its tracks. It's how powerful we are. We have the power to create. We also have the power to stop creation. So we stop it right in its tracks. So, and then that's very confusing for a lot of people, but that's what happens. And when we're not mindful of our thoughts, this is what happens. It's out of control. So if you look at the mind has no structure. If you look at the mind from an analysis, if you view the brain and you understand what is the electrical fire, the synapses, and the transmission, and all of the information that it is compiling, sending endlessly. In a sense, we only literally use, the potential, the power of the brain. We only use about 10% of it, 15 maybe. So we aren't aware, and then of course they try to create computers that are more powerful than the brain, which just cannot be done, because the brain, and then you have the pineal gland, but the brain, we haven't even, you know, we haven't even opened it up to its full ability. So there's a lot of things in these bodies that we aren't aware of. You know, several strands of dormant DNA. We're only using a fraction of our brains. So you speak and understand that we are very, very powerful creatures. Okay. So all of us are being, in different ways, being affected in some ways with the vibrational frequencies that are currently happening. And these are all low vibrational frequencies. When you fall into that, and none of us are exempt from it, when you fall into that, it just depends on the course of your day or your week or your hour or your minute. It just depends. So you begin to realize a few things. Now, if you do not have mastery of your minds, you cannot know the mystery of existence. Yogi Bhajan. So it goes to mastering our minds. A lot of people say, that's just that's too much, or that can't be done. How you mastermind, and it's micromanagement, so on and so forth. So when you understand this from Osho, absence of consciousness is ego. Whenever the ego is absent, God is present. So absence of consciousness, what does that mean? Absence of consciousness. It means you're aware that you're conscious, that you're not aware that you're a conscious being. It means that the ego is front and center. Now you can understand this civilization. This isn't judging. It is just an understanding that the bicameralism of this civilization, this is why so many of the civilization is steeped in heavy ego. And ego causes many things. It causes confrontation, conflicts, obstructions, many fears. The ego is front and center when you have absence of conscious. And whenever the ego is absent, you have God is present. And what is the God? We all know the God. We all should know the God. The God is the pure consciousness within us. It is the kingdom of God within us. It is the heaven. It is all these things. See, but throughout existence, there were those who made labels. And there were those who, as I've said before, who took the God out of humanity, separated the God, made the God something outside of us, which is not true. It is a falsity. So Ramana Maharishi said some impactful things. Simply be still and know that I am God. Soon stillness will prevail and there will be no agitation of the mind. Agitation of the mind is the cause of desire, the sense of doership, of personality, and the personal sense of I. If that is stopped, there is bliss. You see how we are played by ourselves, how we are played by ourselves. This is what happens, and we aren't, unfortunately, many of us are not aware of it. Now, Nesragatta said, if you believe in God, then work with him. If you do not, then become one. So it doesn't matter. I mean, it really doesn't. If you believe in God, then work with him. If you do not, then become one. And there's not much discussed about the fact that the God is really pure consciousness. It's all there is, ever has been, ever will be, ever beyond, forever. That pure consciousness is housed in many different forms. So, it just depends on how we, each of us, view things. It's how we view them. Now, it's interesting that you can become friends with your fear. Now, think of a fear that you have, which is quite personal and challenging to deal with. Pick one that is actually real and super hard for you to look at. I know this isn't easy for some people, but pick a fear that is actually real and super hard for you to look at. Now, some of the typical fears people often have are being abandoned, lost, broke, homeless. Okay, these are the fears. Abandoned, lost, broke, homeless, trapped, being rejected, imprisoned, powerless, or even the perpetual feeling that, quote, I'm a failure in life and will never make it. These are all true founded fears for us. And they're typical across the planet. And the typical fears, again, are being abandoned, lost, broke, homeless, trapped, being rejected, imprisoned, powerless. Or even the perpetual feeling that I am a total failure and never will amount to anything or never make it. There are also external fear-related issues, such as the fear of creepy things crawling on you, the fear of heights, fear of getting sick from someone else, or someone in a dark alley trying to hurt you. Whatever the horrible fear is, that is real for you today. So use it for this meditation, use it for this exercise. Find the juiciest one that's alive inside you right now. Think of your deepest fears are probably the most interesting personalities to inquire into and get to understand better. So try to be present, observant, and curious and patient with meeting your fear, and let this energy know that you're fully there and present with it. Now notice your body responding the very moment you choose to meet face-to-face with your fear. You may notice how your relationship with your fear has already shifted a bit. Now imagine that your fear is coming to you in the form of some unknown stranger approaching the front door of your house unannounced. Now this person is knocking on your door and desperately wants to come in. Notice if your body's initial reaction is to fight, flee, or become numb and freeze. We're talking about your fear, the fear that you've chosen. Now imagine that suddenly this mysterious person is becoming very impatient and knocking much louder because they realize you're not quickly opening the door. How is your body responding now? You suddenly hear a rattling sound behind you and realize they are trying to enter your house through the window. You immediately rush over to shut the window and lock all the windows around your house. Now, this person then knocks again on the front door, and you are freaking out. Yet something inside you wants to find out who it is. So you gather all your courage to look through the peephole and are shocked as you see that this relative is a very small homeless child dressed in rags. An orphan, in fact, who you realize has been abandoned by everyone in their family and rejected by society. You open the door, you can see that this person is actually you, little at a younger age. You begin to have deep telepathic communication with your younger self and realize that you have not taken care of this sacred little part of you. And many years have gone by of pushing them away. You have ignored this sacred child, and you have never sat down and listened to them or spoken with them sincerely. You have never asked them what they needed. You have only pushed them away, run away, and pretend they did not exist. You never once had the courage to open the door and allow them to enter your home with welcome arms. Anytime you push something away, it's still there, Ram Dass. The empathic part inside of you sees the pain on this child's face and takes an emotional step into the body at this younger age. Notice how it feels inside their little body being out in the cold alone at night all by themselves. Now notice how you resisted meeting face to face with this part of yourself. You thought what was knocking on your door was someone else. Can you see how your resistance to opening the door caused this desperate, homeless feeling in your younger self? This is exactly what's happening inside many of us every moment that we do not face our fears and take responsibility for our divinity. Now, this habit is exactly what we are doing whenever our fears arise every day. And as long as we do not open the door and meet our fear, we cannot take responsibility for our power or the connection with the great love and divinity inside of each and every one of us. Treat everyone you meet like God and drag Ram Dass. Another understanding is to be vulnerable with your fear. Casually sitting down on a Sunday afternoon to hang out with a super fearful feeling is not a desirable or easy thing to do. Making friends with fear means that we have to become more open, accepting, and loving than fear. And in order to reach a deeper-rooted level of acceptance in ourselves, we need to practice being vulnerable. Boy, isn't that a toughie for many? Vulnerability doesn't mean becoming weak, like a lot of people interpret it, and letting fear stomp all over you, like a lot of people believe. It means opening up and allowing yourself to feel the fearful energy, whatever it may be, like in its raw form. Our ego mind doesn't like vulnerability. It only wants control, order, and a calculative safety. Yet nobody became enlightened or free in life by doing everything according to their ego. To cling to life is to cling to the five senses, to normal consciousness, thereby shunning the superconsciousness within which the Atman, God within, Atman, God within, is known. Patanjali. Not one human being has ever reached and sustained real everlasting happiness filled with an amazing, fearless life without vulnerability. Once we retrain our emotional brain to be courageous enough to remain open while we are facing our fear, the controlling ego mind has to sit down, relax, and allow the healing feelings to move on in. Once we retrain our emotional brains to become courageous enough to remain open while we are facing our fear, the controlling ego mind has to sit down, relax, and allow the healing feelings to move on in. Now, if we are somebody who feels that we are facing our fears, yet they never seem to change and they keep coming back, sometimes worse than before, this simply means that there is not enough vulnerability and trust to let this orphaned part into your home. Little just wants to connect. Come inside for some cuddles, try some homemade chocolate coconut milk, and be treated in a gentle, respectful way. And only through vulnerability and trust will you open the door. And often it happens that we are reacting to fear with even more fear. You ever done that? Reacting to fear with even more fear. We are responding with the energy of fight, flight, or freezing as a way to remain in control and not feel vulnerable. So when we cannot welcome this energy of vulnerability into our hearts, fear will always dominate your life. Our ego mind is one slippery, sneaky, controlling tyrant, and it must be exposed to vulnerability if we want to be free. It is the only thing keeping us in a state of suffering and far away from 5D bliss. The only reason that many of us are not in 5D bliss is because of what I'm sharing with you. The lack of vulnerability always creates a barrier between you and your experience. For example, imagine that you are super hungry, right? That you're super hungry, and your mate just brought you a fresh hot pizza. Yet, for some reason, the local authorities were watching, and they said that you couldn't take off your COVID mask to smell it, taste it, and you could only look at it from 6 feet away. You would feel just frustrated trying to be with your pizza, and not be able to fully experience it, right? Yet once you say, and you can, any colorful metaphor you may want to use, it, and remove your mask to dig in, you open up and scan, savor the entire delicious experience. It's the same thing with fear. By fully being vulnerable with a fearful experience, we are all removing our mask, our ego, and letting our most guarded internal walls crumble so that we can open up and savor each morsel of life's juicy experiences. By allowing our senses to deeply taste the fearful feeling, we can open up to actually enjoying it through consuming it and letting the body digest the fear fully. We can actually feel satisfied after we experience it because we are no longer afraid of it and it's not lurking over our shoulders. How many times have you experienced something in fear that no matter what you do, most of us will shove it under the carpet or put it in a closet or hide it somewhere and hope to forget about it? But it still follows us, and we're always looking over our shoulders to see what is lurking. So ultimately, to access our deepest vulnerability in this life, it comes down to an awareness of the mask that you're still wearing and learning how to courageously let it go. If you can be conscious of what part of yourself is blocking you from being vulnerable and become responsible for it, you have a chance at becoming free. You can, in a moment, wake up and step out of the matrix, mind. Your consciousness can clearly see that the feelings you're experiencing are manifesting from the thoughts you're believing to be real. Just remember, absence of consciousness is ego. And whenever the ego is absent, God is present. You transform. The third step in transforming fear is that learning how to let go of the angry victim stories that you've created in your life and have identified with them. When fearful sensations arise in our bodies, we automatically create a story around why it is happening. Someone with arachnophobia would say, those creepy spiders are going to hurt me, so I must scream, run away, and make a scene. The story we need to drop is the powerless movie scene in your mind which says little was hurt in the past because of XYZ and will always feel scared now because of XYZ. And when you discover the fearful story that you're clinging to, write it down. Get it on paper so you can see it clearly and detach from the game going on inside of you. Anytime we are in fear, there's a blame game going on underneath the surface. There's some small part of who is pointing the finger outside of blaming XYZ and saying, you are making me feel afraid and there's nothing I can do about it. And whenever we feel threatened, our ego's grip on life gets tighter. You ever feel that pressure? Whenever you feel threatened, your ego's grip on life gets tighter, holding on to whatever point of control it can grasp. It likes to hang on to these memorable movie scenes from our past where it is definitely right, they are definitely wrong. Okay? It's like hanging on to those memorable movie scenes from our past where it is definitely right and they are definitely wrong. The ego is the master at creating judgment and separation, which is the root of all suffering. The ego is the master at creating judgment and separation, which is the root of all suffering. And this is what we experience on this planet. Separation. Okay? Judgment. When you when you're an angry victim, when your angry victim game is triggered and you let your ego hold tight onto your story, it digs its righteous heels even deeper to feel more power and control. And the ego is very righteous, and it will always choose to be right over being happy and free. It's that crazy. Understand that the ego is crazy, okay? It's very righteous, and it will always choose to be right over being happy and free. So it doesn't care about being free. It cares about being right. It is crazy. And once our ego becomes hooked into and identified with a fear-based story, it doesn't have to be vulnerable anymore. It doesn't have to open up and feel the great unknown or ask for the courage to welcome any fearful feelings lurking around inside. As long as the ego is clinging on to being right, we can only live in the dark because the story we cling to is not the whole picture. We cannot see all three sides of the coin because the ego has to believe it knows exactly what's going on. And here's from Agnes Rappelia. This is a good quote. It is not easy to find happiness in ourselves, and it is not possible to find it elsewhere. It is not easy to find happiness in ourselves, and it is not possible to find it elsewhere. It is all within. The path to freedom from fear here is learning how to stop identifying with your fear-based story and truly drop it. Your mind is making up your entire life story in each moment anyway. So why not reboot it with a new story that's more expansive, healing, and enlightening? And the controlling ego will always choose the path that lacks trust and vulnerability because it believes it's disconnected from divinity and it doesn't feel safe enough to relax with those deeper, darker feelings. And once we can find this trusting, vulnerable space, everything changes. We can immediately step back, drop any fearful story we suddenly get caught in because we would simply rather choose to be free. What do you want? It's your choice. Do you want to be in this fearful story you get caught in because the ego wants you to, you're in deeper, darker existence? And do you rather be caught because in the story, or would you rather simply choose to be free? And when we are present with our body, able to relax into feeling any good or bad sensations that arise, we have the awareness that it is safe to feel into our deeper, darker emotions. We can relax into shame, blame, anger, feeling victimized, and let them be whatever they are. Feel them all the way to the core so they can be released from our triggered system. It's like unhooking Velcro from itself. If you are separating your I'm afraid of XYZ story from the emotion inside it, and the result is pure freedom. I am a whole in the future that the Christ's breath moves through. Listen to this music. I am the concert from the mouth of every creature singing with the myriad chords, hafiz. This is what's happening and continues to happen on the planet. It is each and every one of us. Whereas we shall not wait until it's too late. We shall practice using our breath and awareness to deepen our relationships with divinity, God, love, our higher consciousness. It's like a free fall into infinity. Letting go, letting the ego go until you actually can be vulnerable with feeling your entire life, including your fear. Always keep an eye on your ego. Always keep an eye on your ego. Who or what is looking through your eyes? Who is the seer that sees you in the mirror? And when you look into a mirror, you will see the appearance of your face and eyes, and yet not the seer who is doing the seeing. Can your eyes see the seer? What if you used your third or fourth eye? The ego is the false identity that we have mistaken for our real self. The real self is the everlasting eternal soul, our spiritual nature, our pure consciousness that does not die. Know the difference here and now, and you will be able to see when you are acting from ego and when you are free. You can always keep an eye on your ego. If you perpetually look for the ego, just look. Where is it? Keep asking the question, who am I? And then keep looking. Do not get attached to finding anything. No attachments, no expectations. Look without being attached to ever getting the right answer. Look without being attached to ever getting the right answer. How to find the ego? Intellectually speaking, the ego is everything that you identify with after you say the words I am. So the ego plays a big part in our lives. It's everything we think we are. Somehow, this identity often leaves us feeling disconnected from the feeling and knowing our spiritual essence. Now, we may say that our ego is the center of who we are, yet really, the ego is the center of who you think you are. And it can be very tricky to see one's ego, yet once you get a glimpse, each moment afterward, it becomes harder for it to sneakily slip away. And the ego is it is the one who is very controlling of everything in your life. It has this power, protective strategy to automatically guard us against any perceived threat to get whatever it wants, no matter the cost, or even if the threat is real or not. The ego plays this control game through our entire lives until we seek it out. It will create judgments that cause you to live more in separation and fear. It is the sneakiest genius any of us will ever discover at judging others, the world, and unfortunately judging ourselves. And these judgments from the ego mind are given by society to keep us safe from harm and free from pain. This is good and that is bad. These ideas are supposed to separate little from a potentially harmful experience. Yet, we all are walking the spiritual path ultimately, and these judgments are the only thing keeping us separate from divinity and from experiencing real freedom. It is easier to see the ego when you know its amazing tactics. It is super smart and slippery. It has this built-in instinctive ability to instantly resist, ignore, or rise above anything fearful, which makes it feel that life is out of its control. It has to be in charge of life. If the ego isn't in charge, then it has to be wrong about its entire existence and surrender to divinity. Each of us can keep an eye on the ego because it also tends to grasp tightly onto positive thoughts and feelings, fearing that it could be a while before you find a good one again. All of these ego reactions are fear-based and misguided because we have forgotten our divine, eternal nature. Our ego only acts from fear because it still believes it's disconnected from divinity, from the God. It doesn't understand yet that the God source is inside everything, including itself. If you can stop your mind, you will be able to instantly see your ego, and otherwise, it's just running on the wheel, chasing the next bit of cheese with you trailing behind. The ego is the shadow that is blocking you from the light. It's the one thing that will not allow you to relax into the resistance you have to feel your fear. It will redirect you with all of its cunning distractions and avoidance strategies so that it remains in control. Your ego will not naturally befriend fear. It will avoid vulnerability, and it will keep you living in a life of ignorance of your divine power inside. So if you can, make it your daily devotion to keep one eye on your ego and watch it closely all day long. If you can watch your ego for even 2 minutes without flickering momentarily away from seeing it, you'll have one of the most powerful, healing, freeing experiences of your life. Reconnect with your divinity. Reconnect with your divinity. So if you will, go to a place where you're not going to be interrupted. And I'm sure we all are. The first thing that we want to do, desire to do, is to relax our bodies. We relax our bodies from head to toe, inside and out. We drop our shoulders. We talk with the body. We let all things that have attached to us or that we have attracted through the ego mind, to let them go, to face them, to walk through them, to just literally not let them control you. The body will respond and relax, head to toe. And as you relax, we move into the now. The now is what we have. It's what we always have. And the now helps us still the mind. And it helps us still the ego mind and the subconscious mind. And by stilling the mind and the ego mind, we're able to reconnect with our divinity. And as we watch the ego, and we know the ego, we're able to connect more to our divinity, the God within. The now is the moment. It's the space between heartbeats. The now is whatever you're doing right in this moment. It is nothing else. You could be stepping one foot in front of the other, each one being a moment. It could be your breath. Each breath you take in is in the moment. Some of us will choose to go into the past, be seduced, embrace experiences that we have had throughout our lives. Unfortunately, sometimes we're able to not let go, and we drag that into a future that doesn't exist, and we create that future from our past and relive that past and that future. This is why some of us say, I feel like I'm running in circles, and I have been my whole life. Now, we also choose to breathe. We choose to breath in through the nose, divine positive energy. And we choose to breath out through our mouths. And divine positive energy is our divinity. It's our God. It is our consciousness. It is all that there is, ever has been, ever will be, beyond forever. So, visualize your breath through the heart mind. And let's take it up through the center of the body. Through the wheel, the red wheel of light, the root chakra, the Muladhara. The energy, the stability, the comfort, the safety. And remember, the I am after that is the ego. And so we keep an eye on the ego. We move this divine positive energy, this breath, through the center of our body into the orange wheel of light, the sacral chakra, the Vadhisthana, sensuality, sexuality, pleasure, sociability. I feel. After the I feel is the ego. Keep an eye on your ego. Then we move the breath up through the wheel of light, the yellow wheel of light, the solar plexus chakra, the Manipura, the strength, personality, the power, the determination, the I do. After the I do is the ego. Keep an eye on your ego. And then through the green wheel of light, the heart chakra, the Anahata, acceptance, love, compassion, sincerity. I love. And after I love is the ego. Anything you say after the I love is the ego. Keep an eye on your ego. Then we move the breath up through the blue wheel of light, the throat chakra, the Vishuddha, communication, expression, creativity, inspiration. I talk. Then we move through the wheel of light of the violet wheel of light, the third eye chakra, the ajna, intuition, lucidity, meditation, trust. I see. And then finally, the purple wheel of light, the crown chakra, the Sahasrara. This is the knowledge, the consciousness, the fulfillment, the spirituality, the I understand. So as you pull this divine positive energy up through the center of all the chakras connect us, the spirit to the physical to the spirit. And we pull this up into the crown chakra, into the back of our brains, and we, for a moment, we condense it, we hold it. I am light, I am love, I am. Remember, the ego is after I am, it is after I am light, it is after I am love. So be mindful of your ego. Be conscious of your ego. And as we do that, we condense it briefly into pure liquid energy. This energy is hyper powerful. And we release it over the pineal gland, bringing the pineal gland fully functioning and alive. Pineal gland can be looked upon as anything as you deem. I look at it as a rosebud, dormant, doing nothing but living. And as we release this powerful energy, it blooms into a rose. It is immortal. It does not die. It continues to intensify and it continues to expand. It is very important for us, this organ, this pineal gland, while we're in these bodies. It connects us. It is the gateway to all the particles of existence. It is the gateway to pure consciousness. It is the gateway to beyond. So it's very important. So you visualize this. You can exercise this any time of the day, night, or morning. Always keeping an eye on the ego. Always walking through your fears. Being vulnerable to your fears. Open. Not weak. When you walk through your fears, you will find that they really weren't fears at all. They were thoughts that you created into reality. And this goes across the board for all of us. We are all one. We merge the God, the pure consciousness, the kingdom of God, the heaven, whatever label you want to put on it. the heart, mind, the spirit, the soul, the body, all of it together as one. We are consciously aware that we are of the highest, deepest, eternal love from the highest, deepest, eternal love and the highest and deepest, eternal gratitude. This is vulnerability. It is openness. It is tenderness. It is kindness. It is gentleness. This is vulnerability. This is not weakness. This is openness to oneself. This is the understanding of who and what you are, without the ego's influence. Keep an eye on your ego. Now, we have others with us. We're at a gathering at this planet Earth, Gaia, Arya, and we are engaging in this meditation freely, openly, vulnerably. And we have the archangels, cherubim, the seraphim, the archetypes. This is a civilization that vibrates at a different frequency than we do. We see them at times. They see us at times. They give us messages and assistance. We give them messages and assistance. We're all perfecting. They are consciously aware that they are the highest, deepest, eternal love from the highest, deepest, eternal love and the highest and deepest, eternal gratitude. There are trillions of them, and thousands of them at any one time can surround any one of us. The reason this being is because they vibrate at the frequency that they vibrate at. They're able to occupy a small space in a large number. We have the Ascended Masters. Kuan Yin, Maitreya, Buddha, Lakshmi, Ganesh, Gaia, Saint Germain, Sananda, Jesus, El Morya, Abundantia, Bell, Thoth, many, many, many more. These are those who have ascended out of body and hold God form, pure consciousness. We are beings who have ascended we are God form, ascending into bodies to experience physical form. We're all experiencing the archangels, the ascended masters, all that we call to this meditation this day and every day. And they're consciously aware that they're of the highest, deepest, eternal love from the highest, deepest, eternal love and the highest and deepest, eternal gratitude. Now, all three groups, all of us here, this now in this gathering, we reach out to all that we can, all the facets of pure consciousness, all the particles, all of the parts of pure consciousness of the God, here, now. We call upon all the light energy beings and all that there is, ever has been, ever will be, ever, beyond, and forever. And only those who are of the highest, deepest, eternal love from the highest, deepest, eternal love and the highest and deepest, eternal gratitude can be with us in this now, in this meditation, in this gathering, in this forming of the circle of light. Now they come in the googleplexes. One googleplex fills this universe. They come in the trillions from every direction. We call upon all the inhabitants of inner Earth, hollow Earth, Agartha, beneath Earth. Many, many, many civilizations and species. And only those who are consciously aware that they are of the highest, deepest, eternal love from the highest, deepest, eternal love and the highest and deepest, eternal gratitude can be with us in this now, in this meditation, this gathering, this forming the circle of light. We call upon all the galactics, all the off-worlders. There are many, many, many of them. Just in this quadrant of this Milky Way galaxy, in this solar system, over 1,000 traverse it every day. And just a fraction of those that we are aware of, the Pleiadians, the Sirians, the Arcturians, the Andromedans, the Feline, the Golden Pyramids, the Avians, the Draco, the Grey, the Nord, many, many, many. Only those who are consciously aware that they are the Okay, everyone, I was just disconnected out of the clear blue, knocked off the call. So these energies are the way they are. We're not really concerned about them. But we're aware of how this gathering is in these meditations, and we're also aware that there are frequencies which are created by lower thought energies that mean to intervene or to create disturbances amongst us. But understand that when we're in the gossamer field, as we ascend and we form this circle of light that we are in, with unlimited numbers of light energy frequency beings, we're all consciously aware of who and what we are. And we do not move with the ego, we move with our God and our divinity. And as we continue to ascend into fifth density and become acclimated to it, these lower dark matter frequencies will continually strive to exist and survive. And they will become more active because they are at the end. And with the millions of us that are participating in this meditation, our frequency is very high, and it is literally ascending this planet and this civilization into much higher light frequency. This is a fact. It is a given. It is not hearsay. It is happening every single second of our existence. And we continue. So we are in a gossamer field. We understand that this field is full of spectacular colors, all high vibrational frequency. We're met with the emerald green flaming healing light of Archangel Raphael. This is a column that reminds each and every one of us that we are the power of healing. We're also met with the violet blue, purple flaming light of Archangel Michael. This is the column that reminds us of our power, of our strength, and of our resolve. And we are keeping one eye on our egos. We're also met with the column, the purple transmuting flame. Now, this column reminds us, and it's very important to understand, that any time that we choose, we can lower ourselves into low enough frequencies to literally transform ourselves into something that is not through the ego mind. So if we do that, the purple transmuting flame is there, and we can literally bring it in and transmute those lower frequencies, those lower dark matter frequencies, lower survival matter frequencies, into neutral light substance in a matter of the blink of the eye. This is without hate. It is without ego. It is with just pure love. And then we literally send it to the pure consciousness, to the God, where it is no more. We also are reminded of the violet ray. This is a column that lets us know that we can bring it in behind the purple transmuting flame, and we can literally purify the area where those low frequencies were, and we can revitalize and bring our vibrational frequency back into deep eternal love and gratitude. Now, remember, we have the column of the white fire. This is our armor. This is our highest frequency of deep eternal love and gratitude. It is creation. It is what we're made of, deep eternal love. It is source creation, of which we were created from and by. The only time the white fire cannot protect us is if we deem it cannot, and we lower its frequency to allow invasion of lower heavy frequencies. We're also reminded of the golden white pink light. This is us. This is all of us. This is deep gratitude, deep eternal love. This is joy and bliss. This is without ego. This is total freedom and peace, of which we are made of. You see it in sunsets. You see it in sunrises on this planet. You see it in rainbows. You see it in reflections. You can see it in clothes. You can see it in vehicles. You can see it everywhere. It is our God shining through all things. Now, we continue to ascend up. Some of us step outside of our bodies and float above them effortlessly. We look and we see this massive column. And we created this column, and it is larger than the solar system. And the column is opaque. And as we look at it, it's an auric explosion of color, of trillions of different vibrant colors reflecting, shimmering within it. This is pure, deep, eternal love. It is all that we are, ever have been, ever will be, ever beyond, and forever. At the top of the column, we designed it so the golden ocean can flow effortlessly and cascade 360 degrees, saturating, flooding, and bathing everything in everything. We each hold a drop, are the drop of the golden ocean. We hold the essence of that ocean. This is without the ego. We look a little bit to the left, we see our meditative sphere setting center circle. We created this sphere well over 2 years ago. It houses, it's getting close to 900 meditations. It keeps them all in perpetual motion. It is omnipotently powerful in the deepest eternal love and the deepest eternal gratitude, the deepest eternal freedom and the deepest eternal peace, and gentleness and kindness and generosity and humbleness and tranquility and benevolence. And this is why it can be seen, heard, and felt, and all that there is, ever has been, ever will be, ever beyond, and forever. And that's why it continues to intensify and it continues to expand. Feel the flooding of this pure, deep, eternal love light energy, the Christ light, the God, the pure consciousness, the spirit, the higher self. All of these frequencies in the highest of the highest light of the God creation is us. It's within us. It is around us. It is for us to shift, to change. It is our determination and decision. It is nothing outside of us. Our fears will melt away. We no longer ignore them. We are one. We are all one. We are all the God. We are all the love, the pure consciousness. And we are all in full compassion, non-negativity, non-judgment, non-ego, stillness of mind, gentleness, kindness, generosity, humbleness, bliss, joy, peace, tranquility, and benevolence. And we are all I am. That is it. No ego. And we reconnect every second of our existence to our divinity. We embrace the gods that we are, the creators that we are. We have no doubt. Our fears melt away as we walk through them. No different than a foggy day. We know where we are going. It is the journey. It isn't the destination. I'll join you in the meditation and I'll return to close us out. breathe easy. Take a nice, easy breath in. A nice, easy breath out. Move slowly. Feel your vulnerability, your power, your strength, your eye on the ego. All the fears, all the toxicities of this life. Walk through them as you would the fog. Embrace every single one. You'll find that it is all just an illusion set up by the ego mind. Take this with you for the rest of the day, into the evening and night, into the following morning. We're going to have a TFCC tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern on this line. I highly recommend that you are there, and anybody that can get there. Because what I will reveal will set you in a whole different direction while we're on this earth. And we will return June 24th, 2020 at 3 p.m. Eastern to continue our global guided meditation.